truths and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on Earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause. Welcome to The Probable Cause. This is a podcast covering the criminal justice system in Allen County, Indiana, Northeastern Indiana, and the state of Indiana. I'm your host, Jamie Duffy, a locally based journalist, and to my left is our co-host, Michael McAlexander. He is the Allen County Prosecutor. Of course, my right hand is back today. You will hear her over the cell phone. She knows a lot about the system because she lost her son to homicide. We're coming up to 9 years ago now. And unfortunately, that is the reason. I also want to introduce you to Corvus. He's been living in my back garden for many years, ever since he left the 3-acre woods that was torn down in New Jersey, in New Providence, New Jersey. And he and Corvuzio were living back there. You can see that his left wing, he got caught in a chopper. And so he's become a good friend of mine. It's very good to have ravens and crows in your backyard. And I think it's appropriate to feature Corvus today, as the podcast will be released the week of Halloween. He particularly likes All Saints Day, which comes after All Hallows Eve, and he honors Lenore, the famed victim of what we know not in Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Are we all familiar with The Raven?
Yes.
And what does he say? Mike?
You're going to get this once, never more.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Can we say for our audio-only audiences that Corvus is a raven puppet?
Yes. So I do want to say that Corvus is a raven puppet, but you know, puppets are very good in instruction, and this is sort of an SAT type thing. I don't know that they teach this poetry anymore. It was published in 1845. You realize that was 180 years ago, but it's still very relevant somehow. You could use some of these phrases in a probable cause. You could use some of these phrases in a crime story that you're writing. This is true crime. It's a sad story. He lost his, and I'm quoting here, "the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore." It's such beautiful language. His encounter with the stately raven of the saintly days of yore occurred upon a midnight dreary, in the bleak December, when each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. When Edgar Allan Poe succumbs to his grief, his outburst, and this is where I'm going to need you again, Mike. He says, "Ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore." Who hasn't had a nightmare? And it's the nightly shore. "Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven,
Nevermore.
"Thank you." Another line that could be used in the podcast is, "On this home by horror haunted." Now, I have written about horrible homes, but I've never said, "On this home by horror haunted." Tell me truly, I implore. Is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven,
Nevermore.
"Nevermore." All right, you stick around, Corvus, because I think that we've got a lot of kids. I met some lovely high school kids the other day, trying to get them on the podcast to talk to the Allen County Prosecutor. So, Mike, back to the matter at hand. What do we have in courts this week?
Actually, we had a case that started yesterday, and they picked the jury, and then the defendant pled straight up this morning.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Now, what level felony and what was it for?
I think it was a level 5, and I'm not sure. It was resisting, something along those lines, I believe.
But if you resist, isn't that usually a level 6? Resisting arrest?
It depends on circumstance.
So it must have been a pretty bad one.
Well, there's some extenuating circumstances that can't really talk about.
What had happened, right? What had
Well,
happened?
there's another incident in another county that has impacted that case.
Oh, my, that would be an interesting one to write about.
And
Maybe.
the defendant has some physical injuries. So.
Oh, I see. That's getting even more interesting, actually. I did want to say that I covered openings and closings for the murder trial of Jonathan Maddox last week. He was convicted by a jury, and oh my, I don't even think they had time to get their Jimmy Johns. They came back within less than an hour and convicted him of the shooting death of Dawn Kovach. She lived in the wooded area between Wayne Haven Street and the river, and then she was very close to the mobile home park at 6008 Moeller Road. It's all in New Haven. Supposedly he killed her because she stole a few items from the trailer where he lived with his mother, with a lodger, and with his, at that time, girlfriend. He had a gun, .38 Special. He did invite her to take the shower, and that's supposedly where she took the items. Obviously, there were some things going on in her life because she was homeless and lived in a tent. Obviously, there's something going on in his life if he's got a .38 Special and will walk to her tent and kill her basically in cold blood. Tried to say it was self-defense, but the jury didn't buy it because the 4 bullets that hit her skull were all in a cluster, which meant that they were in rapid succession of each other. They didn't discover her until 20 days after she was killed. They're pretty sure on January 3rd. She was discovered on January 23rd by a very good detective who remembered that there was somebody who lived isolated in that area. And if you want to know more about those stories, I would encourage you to go on www.theprobablecause.com or our Facebook page, The Probable Cause. If you want true crime, this story is it. And then you did have a plea deal of Yvonne Broadnax. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that at all?
She hasn't been sentenced yet, but she pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter. And the plea recommendation, if the court accepts it, would be, I believe the sentencing is up to the court, and we would be dismissing a murder charge.
So I did read that probable cause. It was a situation where she wanted some crack cocaine, went to an apartment, gave this guy $20 to go buy it for her. He came back, said he wasn't going to give her the $20 back, but he also didn't have the drugs. She got mad and she stabbed him in the neck, and unfortunately he died. So she was charged with murder, as I would expect that the prosecutor's office would do, but they did get a plea deal on it, and so she will be going to jury, at least for probably a felony. I want to say felony 3 or 4. So now, today, the matter at hand is jury selection.
Voluntary is a level 1, I believe.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
A level 1, so that means 20 to 40. Yeah. Okay, so a level 1 felony is 20 to 40, which is a lot better than murder, which is 45 to 65.
Yes.
She did not use a gun. Okay, so.
She does have a history of drug abuse and other issues.
Well, it sounds like she was pretty desperate for the drugs. And we know this is what happens when people get highly addicted.
Well, so many of our violent acts do revolve around drugs.
Yes, they do.
It's sad.
I mean, some of them are over weed. That's what I can't, I just sit there and I shake my head in court. So anyway, here we go. Jury selection. I'll bet you have a lot of questions about how a jury is selected. I mean, some of you may want to avoid jury duty, as I believe is what you posted on Facebook yesterday, Brock, because you have businesses to run, because you have children to care for, maybe elderly family that you care for, or incapacitated family, or you have other obligations. But jury duty, I will say, is the bedrock of our democracy. At least I think it is. Do you?
I mean, next to voting, it's probably the most common thing that the average citizen gets asked to participate in.
Right.
So it's very important. I mean, we can't do our jobs without juries. We recognize that it can be an inconvenience to your normal day because a lot of times these days you need to be downtown in the courthouse by 8:30 in the morning. And if you're selected for jury duty, you may be there till 5:30, 6 o'clock, sometimes even later. And it just kind of drops in and takes 2, 3, 4 days out of your life. Most of our trials we get done within 4 days. But it can be pretty abrupt because you get called in. I mean, normally to get a 12-person jury and 2 alternates, we were probably calling in around 80 people. So a lot of them won't serve. They'll be there all morning or into the afternoon. Usually we can get a jury picked around the lunch hour.
Right.
Kind of thing. But it's still a half a day of your time. And I think people that go through it, it's an interesting process.
And I think it helps them understand the court system all that much better.
Yeah. But it's not like what you see on TV. It does take longer. And there are parts that in order to provide particularly scientific evidence, you have to establish foundation evidence. So sometimes it's kind of boring to hear somebody's resume or talk about the scientific basis for fingerprints or DNA.
Well, isn't it sort of like an opening argument, too, that the prospective jurors do hear about the case?
Mm-hmm. One of the things that it's now not a recent innovation, but something that didn't start till, I think, 2003, that the attorneys are allowed to give what's called a mini opening statement before the jury selection process starts. And that's designed to let people know at least a pretty good idea of what kind of case it is. Previously, we would just bring them in and they would know the bare bones. The person is charged with burglary or robbery or murder or child molesting or something. But they didn't have any of the facts behind it.
Or any details that might help.
Yeah. And I think particularly with sex crimes and domestic violence type cases, a lot of people have some awareness of that, either in their own history or family members that have been subject to various types of abuse. And
it's so widespread, sex abuse.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it when you read the data. No.
Well, and that can create almost a secondary trauma for the potential jurors, and make it much more difficult to get a jury. I think both sides go in, and I know there was a TV show that was based on Dr. Phil's experience. He was originally a jury consultant.
I didn't know that.
And there's a lot of theories about picking a jury that you get into. Arguably, what we're looking for is somebody who's got an open mind, will listen to the evidence that's presented, not get stuck on what they may have read in the papers or seen on TV or something that's completely unrelated in some other part.
Well, if they admit that they're familiar with the crime, that they did read about it or hear about it in the media, are they automatically excluded?
No.
Okay.
It comes down to, and a lot of people think that. I mean, we've been very fortunate in the last 30 years or so. If we have a very high profile crime and we are concerned that too many people have heard about the case, and in an abundance of caution, what they have done is generally gone and picked a jury in another county and then bring them here for the trial.
So in the Cohen-Hanks-Barron trial, where he killed 3 children and a mother, I believe that jury was local. I covered every day of that.
Yeah, I don't know that we've had a case recently that has created so much news media attention that the court felt like we had to go elsewhere. There is an attitude kind of, well, let's go ahead and try to pick the jury with our local citizens.
Well, we've got to remember that there were Fort Wayne citizens who were shipped down to Delphi.
Yeah, that's the most recent case that
because that county only has about 3,000 people.
Right, and it was clearly a well-known case. It got tremendous coverage throughout the state and nationally. And I think they thought they would have an easier time picking a jury from somewhere other than right around Delphi.
Right. Oh, I agree with that one. So,
but we haven't had to do that on our cases recently. Even when we've had some pretty heinous cases, we were able to find jurors that could be fair and impartial, and that's really the trick with it, because if you think about a smaller community, people are much more likely to know a police officer or a witness. I mean, when I've talked to prosecutors, especially from some of the real small counties, I remember one guy telling me that he was out mowing his lawn and somebody would stop and say, "Hey, I got jury duty next week. Do I have to come in?" And you say, "Yes, you need to come in." But the process that we go through in getting that fair and impartial juror, it's a little bit different for the defense than it is the state. And there are some kind of stereotypes that are out there that may or may not be accurate.
May or may not.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's like they say,
can't imagine.
Don't get somebody with a very technical, scientific background if you've got evidence that is more circumstantial, because they want everything to add up exactly. So
what kind of profession would that be?
Well, the conventional wisdom is an accountant or an engineer would be like too picky. And then there's kind of a conventional wisdom, somebody in the teaching profession listens to kids and has a big open heart and wants to believe everybody, and so they won't be tough on and see bad behavior. They'll try to excuse it, but over the years that is really difficult to hold. And now there's more thinking, I think, in jury selection about the group decision-making dynamic. That do you want a certain number of leaders and a certain number of followers? And
you have to make that judgment. The defense attorney and the prosecutors have to make that judgment. Is this person a leader or is this person a follower?
And it's interesting because there are times, I know in selecting jurors, you're also, though, focused on the person that's in front of you. And you kind of want to mix, but sometimes you get done and you're so focused on each individual juror that you look up and you realize you just picked, 11 men and one woman, or vice versa. And
I think you get a pretty good balance, all the trials I've been in. I mean, it
usually works out that way. You usually have a pretty good mix of usually some younger people, some older people. Probably the majority is between 35 and 55. But each case is a little bit different.
Do they keep statistics on that? Because I see a lot of people that I would consider retired on the jury.
I don't know that anybody has sat down and really plotted out by demographic information to say that, such percentage is white males between 35 and 60, so much percentage black males between certain ages. I know we have never kept track of that kind of thing here. And
But you do have it computerized?
well, but we keep a lot of that as protected information. And for the most part, when we are, the actual jury questionnaires don't have like people's names on them. They use a jury number. So we're
But it
trying
would
to
have their
protect-
age and their race
Yes,
and their gender.
not necessarily their race.
Oh, okay.
But age, who's in their household is kind of a standard thing.
Income level?
No.
Okay.
Now you may glean that if they put down what their job is,
Right, their
kind of thing.
profession.
But I think over the years we've tried to make it more scientific in picking juries, but it's still something of a you don't know.
Subjective.
And you don't know, sometimes there are juries that deliberate for a long period of time on something that seems like they should get a decision pretty quickly. Sometimes that's due to a holdout juror. Sometimes there's a split or speculation on stuff that wasn't even brought up in the trial.
So, and then, yes, I do think that both the defense and the prosecutors do have a chance to talk to the jury, or does the jury have to say, yes, we'll talk to them?
You mean after the trial?
Yes.
Yeah, they are not forced to talk to us frequently.
But do they usually want to?
I think it depends on the verdict.
Okay.
And I think sometimes it may depend on the individual juror. I've noticed with hung juries, they're still, both sides are kind of still arguing. Now,
You
frequently,
want to say what a hung jury is for
Okay.
people who might not know?
hung jury is when a jury can't come to a unanimous decision.
And it can
so-
be 11-1, can't it?
Yeah, 11-1 either way.
Yeah.
And that's taken into account. But I probably ought to go back to the beginning a little bit here, that when you are called in for jury duty and you get into, as we say, the jury box, if you're called up to be examined, usually what happens is there's some general instructions that are given to all of the jurors that are called in. And they're asked to raise their hand. And if they're not in the jury box, they're told, if you get selected to be in the jury box later, please tell us what question you responded to. But once they're in the jury box, that's when the attorneys get to ask individual questions of them. And it'll be a combination of items about the law or the case, where we're asking, is there anything about this type of case that would not enable you to be objective? And, you know, as we talked earlier about, particularly, I think, sex crimes or child abuse cases, people have very strong feelings about that, and it becomes personal, and they're not comfortable in sitting in judgment on those. And there are some people that also say they don't believe that we should judge others. And we're obviously looking for people that are willing to make decisions and are comfortable in making that decision. We may discuss that it's our burden of proof to go forward. The
Right.
defense doesn't have to really do anything. We may also spend some time talking about that we have to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. What is that? What is a reasonable doubt? There's a big misconception, meaning it has to be beyond a shadow of a doubt or beyond all doubt. As many times as we say that, we still have jurors that come back and think that the standard is much higher than what it actually is. But it is a very hard standard to explain to people. And I know I usually say use your common sense. But in the jury selection process, we're looking for that. And there's basically two ways to get out of jury duty, if you want to call it that.
I do have that in the script, but go ahead.
As a lawyer, what we do is, after we do our questioning of the panel, and both sides get to do it, There are sometimes when a juror may give an answer right then that the court will say, you're excused immediately. But generally what we do is both sides go, and then we kind of determine who we want to be taken off the jury, and the defense does the same thing. Then we go up to the bench and tell the judge what we want to do. So there's two kinds of strikes, one for cause and one peremptory.
Right.
For cause means that the person has shown that they can't be fair and impartial. Now, some of that can be because they either know people. I had somebody last week tell me that they got out of jury duty, or they went up and said that they knew me, and they're married to an attorney, and they did this and that and stuff, and they got released.
That's called a connection to the case.
Yes. And obviously, if they are a witness or something to it, or if they work for us, our chief investigator was on a panel, I believe last week or 2 weeks ago, on a jury. Well, it's highly unlikely that anybody's going to keep her on. She's familiar with all of our major cases.
Right.
Spouses of people that are involved are frequently, if they say, no, I would really struggle with being fair and impartial, they may be excused. If they've shown some unwillingness to follow the law, they could be excused for cause. But the rest of them becomes kind of a subjective thing for the lawyers. And it can be as simple as, I just get a bad vibe about that person. I don't think they're with us. And
here, what about caregiver responsibilities? I mean, that's taken into account, is it not?
It can be. Sometimes that's up to the judge.
Right.
And
I've seen that.
The same thing, work responsibilities. It may depend on the case. It may depend on the judge's attitude about how open they are to cause strikes. But then we have the peremptory strikes, where if we see something we don't like, and maybe we follow some of those stereotypes that this case, I don't want that kind of person on. But that does vary with the case, varies with the judge, sometimes varies just with the circumstances of that case.
Well, how many peremptory challenges does each side get here in Allen County?
10 on major felony cases.
That's a lot.
Well,
That just
I would say
means-
most of us, if we're up against it, would like a few more. But
Oh my goodness. I mean, you could always say, you don't have to give a reason in the peremptory challenges.
right, the only place you have to, if it's based, if you are striking a minority, you have to give a race-neutral decision or explanation for that. And the court can accept it and grant your peremptory, or they can deny it.
Oh, I mean, because I know there is a defense attorney who's told me that, yes, he has filed the Batson challenge.
Yes.
Okay,
Named
we want to
after-
discuss the Batson
Well,
challenge.
that's named after a Supreme Court case, I believe, out of Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And
Yep, Batson versus Kentucky, 1986.
yep. And that came in, and you had to have a race-neutral reason if you were striking a minority. And judges, again, have quite a bit of discretion on that.
They have power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had a case once out of county where I had a man who appeared to be of Hispanic heritage, who was, I think, 83 or something like that.
Well, yeah, okay.
And if I remember right, I thought he said he had some issues with hearing and that, and I struck him, and the court didn't allow it.
Well, it does say that you are allowed to strike somebody if they are impaired in some way, if there is an English comprehension problem. So that's a little bit surprising. What county was that?
It's not fair to the county because the judge wasn't We had an out-of-county judge as well.
Oh, okay.
So,
He must have been from Indianapolis.
no.
I'm just kidding. All right. So,
But that does get into the court's discretion on how they view that.
right.
And some judges take the approach that this is a civic duty and it's a pretty high bar to get struck for cause. And they want people to come in of all walks of life to sit on the jury.
I mean, I was there covering a murder trial just 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was one of the alternates, but several times when I was trying to film the closings, he bent way over, and I thought he was sick. And it was just like, I mean, nobody stopped. Nobody said, "Sir, are you okay?" I've seen jurors appear to me slightly asleep. I mean, after lunch, you can get kind of sleepy, no matter what age you are. And I can,
Well,
just to add
there's
that.
just so many things that can go wrong during a jury trial. People talking to the jurors, since we've got
people
the
talking to the jurors.
Yeah, if you don't have them sequestered, they go out to lunch. And we've had family members of victims and defendants approach jurors.
Well, that doesn't happen anymore. They eat lunch in the courtroom.
And that's why we've changed some of that.
Right. They
But
get their
for
Jimmy
years,
John's in the courtroom. I'm just joking because that's a popular one they order out. They do get lunch. We should point out that there's a little bit of pay, I think, and they do get lunch.
yes.
And I know they've ordered from halls too, because I've been here when I heard. I mean, the downstairs security guards will let me know, or I'll see the guy bringing it in.
I think the bailiffs mix it up for them.
Oh, they're the ones that get to decide? Because I thought maybe the jury.
I
Since
think
we're such a democracy around here.
since we don't feed the jurors, I don't know specifically, but my impression is they've made arrangements with several different restaurants, and they try not to just feed them from the same place every meal.
Yeah, spread the love. I mean, why not? So what I wanted to talk about too is that jury duty isn't anything new, and it's not new to America. It was, I mean, more than 1,000 years ago. It started in the manorial courts in England. As you know, I read about this stuff. In these little villages, they would choose 12 men, and they were appointed, because it wasn't women, naturally they wouldn't want women on the jury. But anyway, they would stay jurors. They were like appointed jurors. That was like one of their jobs in the village. They might be the cotter or the miller or the whatever, but they were also on the jury. 12 men, just say the jury, I mean, just let's say the village might have been at most 200-300 people. You might get a fair trial. And the only reason I'm saying that is that you've got 12 to spread it around. They might argue a bit. It might make it fairer than just like a judge, or a steward or a bailiff making the decision. I also wanted to put something in front of you that, I was talking it over with my right hand, and a friend of mine, Nicole Gaughan, who is she's a social worker here in town, has helped an awful lot of families. Wouldn't it be something if we could find 12 jurors at the Allen County Jail and have a simultaneous jury going on that could watch it? And you know what Nicole said? She said, "I'll bet you the guys over there, in the jail would be harsher than the jury here."
I think in some types of cases that's probably true.
Yeah, like the sex crimes, stuff like that. And it truly would be a jury of your peers.
Well, we use the term broadly
Yes.
for citizens of the country or the county.
Here's how Allen County gets their jurors. They go to the Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles, the Indiana Department of Revenue, and the voter lists, the registered voters.
Okay.
All right, this is what I found online. Names are randomly selected from these sources to identify prospective jurors. That's in the Allen Superior Court and Circuit Court. Then there's this random draw. A large pool of names is randomly drawn from the combined master list to create a qualified list of prospective jurors. They get a summons and a questionnaire. The questionnaire helps determine the person's eligibility based on the state requirements, such as U.S. citizenship, you have to be a U.S. citizen, county residency, got to live in the county, and you have to be at least 18 years old. The question is, can you be a felon?
Yes.
You can.
I don't think you can be on active supervision, like either in custody or on probation.
Okay.
But yes, if you have a felony in your background, you can be called to jury duty. You can vote.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's, I mean, you know, just automatically lose all your rights because of a situation. We should probably talk about the questionnaire now, because it used to just be that you would send it back in. However, criminal court judge Fran Gull here in Allen Superior Court was recognized nationally for making the jury selection process easier for individuals. You were here in 2015 when she got the G. Thomas Munsterman Award for Jury Innovation. It was from the National Center for State Courts. The award is given to states, local courts, organizations, or individuals who have made significant improvements or innovations in jury procedures, operations, and practices. So from what I understand, it used to be, she made it so that you could go online and fill out the questionnaire, either on your phone or on the computer.
She was also the chair of the group back in 2003 that revised the jury rules. They gave us the mini opening and
the mini opening then? Okay. So the foray into greater use of technology did begin in 2003, which you just mentioned, when Allen County hired judicial systems based in Tyler, Texas. Okay. Initially, the company was selected because it had software that could scan paper juror questionnaires, and it had software into a computer and make an electronic file. So the latest advance was M-Jury. I say before the jury selection process was done by mail and phone. Now, that really sounds good. However, I don't think we can talk about this innovation without talking about the case that was brought against Allen County for discriminating against Black people and minorities in jury selection.
Okay.
All right, that was 2002. So if she started in 2003, I think it was in reaction to this case. It was the Indiana Supreme Court that found that Allen County discriminated in its jury selection process. Now, it really wasn't because of the prosecutors or the defense attorneys or anything like that. We have to go back to this outfit. There were like 3 or 4 of them around, and they set up this selection system whereby they would go township by township. So in other words, Wayne Township, where most of the Black population lived, is way down in the alphabet. So by the time it hit 10,000 jurors selected, it stopped. And so the court found that 4 specific flaws in the program, including a cutoff at 10,000 jurors, regardless of the actual population, excluded a significant number of residents from Wayne Township from the potential jury pool. It goes on from there. Since the heavily Black neighborhood of Wayne Township is near the end of the alphabet, its residents had a 50% lower chance of being selected for the jury pool. This resulted in the exclusion of 87% of eligible Wayne Township residents. The state Supreme Court ruled this process violated the requirement for impartial and random selection. So that's when Allen County moved toward the Bureau of Motor Vehicle, Indiana Department, and not just the voter rolls. Okay, so I don't know if you want to say anything about that, because you must have remembered that was only like 20 years ago.
No, I remember the challenge to it, and I don't remember those specifics, but I believe there was a national trend occurring to feeling that not everybody, and particularly minorities, were registered to vote, and that was the classic first place you went to. Then there was a movement to use utility customers BMV voters a broader base of people to select from. The other thing that I think changed after that here is they went to a one and done kind of system. We used to get juries that would be in a panel for a quarter, 3 months.
Okay.
So we had the ability that, say in January, you'd bring somebody in for a trial. Well, you might get that same group of 60 or 70 jurors called in later in February or March. There was a sense that they weren't as objective. I think I've mentioned this before, but what sometimes happened on that is they came in, if you will, very innocent. And then they say they found somebody not guilty. Then they read the newspaper the next day, and the newspaper would tell them that that person was found not guilty, despite the fact that he has 2 prior convictions for burglary or that kind of stuff. So when they came in a second time or a third time, they were a little more skeptical of the claims of innocence. So we got rid of that system and went to what we have now, in theory, that everybody in the county who's eligible will get called before somebody who's already served will come back.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know how accurate it is. My own personal experiences, I've lived here my entire life other than law school and the Navy, and I've never received a summons for jury duty.
Oh my God.
My wife has. Other family members have.
I've been back for 11 years. I haven't. Maybe they exclude journalists right off the bat. Can't have that one. No. I'm just kidding.
But, so I don't know if that's just it's probably a fluke.
Well, what about other people in the prosecutor's office? You said the investigator got one, so.
No, we've had other people called in. I remember when Congressman Souter was in Congress, he got called for jury duty in Allen County.
Was he in Washington, D.C. at the time?
No, he came up and showed up. I believe Mayor Henry at least once got called for jury duty.
That's funny.
So, yeah, it was with Congressman Souter, the defense lawyer asked him, and it hit the paper, do you have the balls to find him not guilty?
So that's when people actually covered the jury selection as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I have sat through it, but I have never covered jury selection. I just go to the openings and I figure I have the probable cause in front of me and I'm going to see what they have to say. That's funny. John Oliver, I don't know if he's that popular here, but he is the comedian and host of Last Week Tonight on HBO. Are you familiar with him? Mm-hmm. He does these great little segments on criminal justice, and he's funny, so sometimes I wish he'd stick closer to the point, but he really is good, and I don't know anybody else who's doing this. They last about 20 minutes. He did one on jury selection. It was released on August 17, 2020, so about 5 years ago, and he did talk about Allen County. And I want to post that with the podcast. Actually, he showed a defense attorney from somewhere else. Or was it a prosecutor? And that was more eye-opening than anything. But he went through what I just went through about the Wayne Township situation. So anyway, staying on subject also, as our juries fare, I found an article of mine that I covered when I was at Wayne TV, the Jamarian Thomas murder trial. And what was interesting about that one was that his mother went on camera and said she was very concerned because they're all black people, they're African American, and the jury was all white. And she said she didn't believe he could get a fair trial. He was convicted of murder. It was a really sad case, really sad case. It's like the devil took that bullet, shot it into the building across the parking lot. They were attacked by thugs from Chicago. None of them ever got arrested. So it was was really sad, and Jamarian was only 20 years old, and it breaks my heart, having brought up boys. So I don't know if you want to say anything. That was on Reddit, by the way. Do you want to say anything about that before we move on to voir dire?
Well, we try very hard to make this process as fair as we can. Mm-hmm. Historically, we haven't had a ton of black jurors. I don't know if some of that is because they choose not to come in, but I'd say in the last decade, many of our jurors are minorities now. I think it is a more open process than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. I think we've made definite progress. And I think that's true for race relations throughout our history. We've made progress. We are better today than we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Certainly better than we were back in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's
50s.
I think it's something that there's huge contrast from what went on in the 30s, 40s, 50s to where we are now.
Well, so John Oliver,
but is it perfect? It's probably never going to be perfect. I always go back to the Constitution in order to create a more perfect union.
Yes.
And that has been, I think, the goal of responsible public officials forever. How do we make the system better? But it's not foolproof, just as juries are not foolproof. I mean, we get juries. Certainly there have been scores of horror stories, particularly out of the South with black defendants and wrongful convictions.
Still get those stories.
But there's also ones that I can tell you that we get not guilty verdicts on cases that don't even seem to really be close, or their verdicts aren't consistent with each other. And it's not a perfect system, but I think the conventional wisdom is nobody's figured out something better or fairer.
Well, I think that they did work on the jury selection. I think that was really a positive thing. And what John Oliver was talking about, that's why that 20-minute segment is worth watching. He said if you have one black juror on your jury panel, they talk about the case more. They look at more evidence. It's like they do a better job at the investigation. And I'm not saying that it was necessarily the defendant is black. So it's just better all around to have that diversity, it seems.
I certainly, in terms of group dynamics, could see that being something that just makes them more accountable.
Yeah.
And does make them not really going that extra mile, but just making sure they look at everything. This is also where the actual way a jury functions. Sometimes when we get those, you referenced last week getting a very quick verdict. I think sometimes that depends on whoever the foreman is kind of directing things. If they go in right away and take a vote, I think you get a faster verdict because then they can target, kind of zero in. If, on the other hand, they go in and say, well, before we vote, let's sit down and go over every piece of evidence. Well, it's potentially going to slow the process down. It may be more thorough, but is it necessary if they are not really disagreeing?
Well, the jury foreman does come in and he tells the judge he or she hands over the verdict. However, the other ones, even if he is selected as and I say he because it usually seems that it's a he, but they're allowed to discuss. He might have the leadership qualities to lead the jury, but they all have their own say, I would think.
Right, they all have their own vote.
Yeah.
It has to be unanimous in Indiana.
Right.
And there are, there's a lot of theories and I think a lot of post-jury stuff that has been done. My personal theory, I've read this stat that 80% of the jurors make up their mind after opening statement.
Wow.
I think
That's a lot of pressure on the people getting up and giving the opening statements.
Well, and I think what it is not so much that they've made up their mind, but presumably the state has a reasonably compelling case. As you said, you read the probable cause, you take that as pretty factual. A lot of times what our opening statement is essentially reciting what the evidence is going to be that we know is coming in, that is usually the same kind of stuff that's in the probable cause affidavit.
Right.
I think what a lot of jurors do, and the defense is usually coming in, you've seen enough trials. It's rare that they have a true alibi or it's a great mystery. It's whether do we have enough to prove this person did it at this time. It's usually not a question. Yeah, it was a murder. That's not a question. The crime is clear, and it's then just, was there enough to establish that this person did that act? So I think a lot of what they do when they say that they've made their decision, they didn't really make their decision. They're taking what they heard first, and then all the evidence that comes in later, they're matching it up against that probable cause affidavit or that opening statement to see, is it supporting the state's theory of the case? And if it does continue to support that theory, in their minds they kind of go back, yeah, we were pretty much agreed from the beginning because we didn't get anything that really contradicted what the state told us at the beginning.
Right. And the Allen County prosecutor has gotten better and better at collecting their evidence and really homing in on it all. I think that's why Jonathan Maddox, it was, he had the two people that he lived with. They were saying, yeah, he had the gun. He said he was going to do it because there's no video of him actually killing her. And the video that you did have, as Robert Scrumman pointed out, who was the defense attorney, you can't really tell who that dot is, but yeah, he's on the bike. Yeah, it's like it matches up to what other people said. So absolutely.
But I think that's where if the defense doesn't have something fairly concrete to present, it becomes a question. We're up against the elusive definition of reasonable doubt.
Well, in that case, too, he tried to say it was self-defense, but here you are, 37, 38 years old, and your victim is a homeless lady who's 54. Right then and there, oh, is she,
yeah, what was
is she a wrestler? She did not have a gun. It was his gun, and they traced it to him. I guess they were just a jury that made up their mind right away, because I was joking around with somebody. I said, did they get their lunch that day? We know that's the high point.
Well, and that's what I mean, is that each jury has kind of a different dynamic to it. And that's why when people say they can read the jury so well, as a lawyer, I know I've been in situations where I'm given a closing statement and I've got a couple of heads nodding with me. And, you usually take that to mean, hey.
I'm in good shape here.
And then sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Now, most times the state should win if we're doing our job, if our investigation is done. It's not because we're superstar lawyers necessarily, but the facts should dictate.
Well,
and we should bring cases that are strong enough.
So how miserable does it get when you leave the courtroom and you have not prevailed? Is that when you head back to your office and...
Yes.
Give me a cold beer.
It can be very frustrating. But there are things that jurors don't like. I mean, the attitude on some drug offenses today is a whole lot different than it was 20 or 30 years ago. When we've done marijuana possession only cases, the first question with jury selection is, how many of you think that marijuana should be decriminalized, legalized, available for medical use? And
Everything shoots up.
well, maybe not every hand, but 2/3 to 3/4 are usually saying, and the polls I've read say the same kind of thing.
Right. 70% of Hoosiers believe that it should be legalized.
And so that gets into, sometimes there are crimes that the general public doesn't think should be a crime. And we have a term for that called jury nullification, where a jury ignores the law, basically. And
they all get arrested.
well, they find somebody not guilty. Other times there's, and on those, like for possession of marijuana, they're clearly making a statement that is still the law in Indiana. It is illegal, but it can be a tough one to win when it should be a laydown. I
saw where one just took a plea on that because I looked through my case.
And I had a case with a battery to a police officer when I first started. Two brothers from Ohio. One of them was in law school. One of them was a senior, I think, at Ohio State.
Going on to med school.
Yeah, they were in line at a bar to get in and got into a fight with an off-duty police officer who was checking IDs. And we had like a 3-day trial on this. I felt like I had really commanded the courtroom and got the evidence in I needed and all of that. And the defense lawyer was talking about whether these kids could recognize that he was a police officer because they were from Ohio. And at the time, the Fort Wayne uniform regulations said an officer should wear a hat, and none of them did.
I could just see that hat, but.
And we were getting.
Like anything like the New York City officers wear right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were getting reports that they were laughing at the defense lawyer because he was kind of towards the end of his career and didn't seem to be with it a whole lot.
Fumbling a bit, yes.
And that jury came back not guilty.
Favoritism.
Well, and I think what I was devastated.
Yeah.
It took me like 3 weeks and finally kind of came to the conclusion that they looked at these two white middle-class kids with good futures ahead of them and maybe just thought they'd been punished enough by being forced into a trial, by being charged with a felony, and they didn't want to destroy their lives.
What kind of shape was the cop in who got beat up?
He was beat up. I mean, he didn't have serious injuries, but he had some pretty bad scrapes. And
did he get on the stand? Oh.
So, this is where the human nature part of things comes in. You're never going to get full guarantees on anything with jury selection. Human beings can be contrarians. They can get sideways with something. We've all had cases where the jurors ask questions during deliberations and both sides and the judge are going, where did this come from?
Oh my.
Nobody mentioned this at all during the entire trial.
So if it wasn't mentioned in the trial, is it actually evidence?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
But this is where the jury system is, I can say it's not perfect, but again, go back to what would be better. Do we take a group of learned judges and let them do it? Or do we want a system that still has that human element? Now, sometimes that human element in the wrong circumstances. Use your, putting a black man on trial and, To Kill a Mockingbird kind of
Right.
trial. We don't like the result on that. But we also don't like the result when they ignore the law. But, as a citizen and doing their public duty, maybe that's their way of telling the legislature to change certain laws. So,
Well, that's what the special judge David Lohr, when the defense attorney Robert Scrumman tried to get a lesser included in there, and then there was something else that he wanted to add. David Lohr, the special judge, said that wasn't brought up in testimony, so we're not going to include that. However, self-defense was in the police interview. So yes,
so he gave an instruction on self-defense.
Yes, he gave an instruction on self-defense.
And I think to get a lesser included, you need to have some evidence to support that.
But, he tried. So we do need to talk about, once you are chosen for jury, voir dire is when you do the jury selection. We should say that is what it means. You're brought in, that's a French phrase right there, to say. A smaller panel of prospective jurors is then brought into the stage of selection known as voir dire. Sometimes people say voir dire, and you've got your challenges, and then after you are chosen, one of the biggest questions here, and it's going to make you laugh, I know, is what should I wear when I get chosen for the jury?
It is certainly interesting how that has changed.
Yes, because here it says, wear clothes as if you were going to church. And that kind of made me laugh.
I would say that when I started back in the 80s, most men would wear a coat and tie.
Mm-hmm. Now nobody does.
Yeah, I mean, hardly ever, or I shouldn't say hardly ever, but most people, I would say, dress in business casual to jeans and a shirt.
Yeah, and it's okay as long as, it's not distracting. Mm-hmm. But I noticed that people will come in so casual, they'll have like a T-shirt with a slogan on.
I think in the first panel, it's not uncommon to see kind of like the pajamas.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
I wish that would go away.
Yes. And it used to be.
Yeah, you would like it, I know, because no, literally, I get on my right hand all the time for this. I said, whatever you do, even if you're running to Halls to get your roast beef sandwich, don't wear your PJ pants. But she said, I'm comfortable, and I know everybody does it.
Well, we also used to see even a change during the course of a trial that when it came down to deliberate, they would dress up more.
Oh.
Kind of when the spotlight was going to be focused on the jury, they would change. So it's just interesting, but I think some of that is, if you want to say dress like you're going to church, people in church aren't dressed the way they were in the 50s and 60s.
That's true too. So, but it just cracked me up. It said, well, wear subdued colors like gray and light blue and everything else. I just had to include that. That was just too darn funny.
Now, for the lawyers, that's probably been one change that it's still pretty easy for men. It's wear a suit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And where I think that's been maybe something more of a challenge for women lawyers is sometimes they wear the suit, but women's dress codes can be more like a dress with a jacket over it kind of thing.
Yeah, that looks nice. I notice a lot of them do attempt to wear heels.
Yeah.
And I'm commiserating with them, even though it is a carpeted floor.
Yeah, and I think most of our folks that wear heels over have a pair of flats to get into.
Oh, yes.
As soon as the jury leaves the room.
Definitely. So is there anything we haven't covered? Because Corvus here wants to go take a nap.
You should bring that to next time the jury selection,
too.
and I could write it out.
Yeah, this would get me definitely disqualified. I'll have to bring it over my right hand, or I'll send you a picture of Corvus.
Right hand, do you have a perspective from the victim's family on, because you got to watch, I mean, you've watched a lot of trials over the years, but on your son's case, you had a hung jury on the first trial and a guilty on the second trial. What was your sense of how the jury selection and the role of the jury in the trial went?
Honestly, I haven't gone to jury selection since my jury, and I only sat through the first one. The second one, I couldn't do it. And the first one, I had to end paying attention till I didn't go back after lunch.
Yeah, because you were just too nervous. You were too anxious about the whole
they
thing.
go a little bit over so they open the case with basically the whole story. So it's a rehash of all the evidence.
Right.
And then you go through them one by one till you get to the one that you object to, and then you get booted out for that one too. Not booted out, that's the wrong term. Most families are allowed to come back in.
They are released. Released.
They can't leave until they're released, but they can be downstairs, go out and smoke, walking around. Like there's things they don't have to sit in the courtroom for that break.
Right.
So
well, did you ever look at one of the jurors and worry that, because you wanted them to find him guilty. So did you ever worry that, oh, that one doesn't look like, I'm not sure I trust that guy, or, yeah, really nervous about all that.
Yeah, it's horrible from the family's perspective. And I feel sorry for the jury too, because their whole breakfast and lunch is their whole breakfast is being interrupted, and it's just a mess.
Yeah,
but no, I don't like it. From the family's perspective, every family that I've talked to, I've gone down and sat with them in the courtyard, waiting for the jury verdict, but I don't want to go in. It's difficult.
There is always a rush when you get into the courtroom and they've got the verdict. There's that suspension in the air, and it is really exciting. And I know. Go ahead. I know it's not exciting for you're just like, oh my God, it's a moment of dread. But as a journalist, you go in there and like, okay, what's it going to be? I always have a gut feeling what it's going to be. I used to actually predict how many hours to the people I was talking to on the text prosecutors and the defense attorney. I said, this one's going to be 2 hours. I don't know. This might. They have to have lunch. They might be waiting for dinner,
Well,
psychologically figure it out.
It's very hard to focus on anything else when you're waiting on a jury.
Yes.
If you come back to the office, it's hard to concentrate on other things. If you're just kind of hanging out, and we have different people that like to do different things, and you really are kind of paralyzed because you've got to be ready if there's a part two, or if the jury gets questioned. It doesn't happen often, but every so often you have to go back if they're kind of hung up on an issue. The court can bring them back in and give us kind of a mini closing argument again to explain the concept. So you've got to be ready for that. Everybody is kind of stressed. The victims are looking at the attorneys for some guidance, and we're pretty much as lost as everybody in terms of trying to interpret the jury's questions if they've come out, or why is it taking so long, or is a quick verdict good for the state, good for the defense?
Feeling is as if it's a quick verdict, it's good for the state.
Unless it isn't.
Well, I can remember, they get back pretty quickly now, because I can remember back in prior to 2020, prior to COVID and all that, like literally camping out over there because there was that rule at 4:30, they don't let you go back out like to catch, supper and then come back again. So I would be up there waiting and waiting and waiting. And I can remember one time being up there at 10 o'clock at night. And I finally said, I didn't have my phone, of course. I was just like, I am leaving. I'm just going to get the information later. And I got yelled at.
Well, I think the courts have tried to avoid that. I think the current trend has been more, if we get done early, mid-afternoon, they're more likely to come back the next day, do closings, and
Right.
go in. And I think part of that is in consideration to the jurors and everyone involved, because you do a couple of those till midnight, 2 a.m., and it messes you up for the next day.
Yeah.
And but I've been involved in cases where, you're ready to start the weekend and the jury is out till 10, 11, and midnight on a Friday.
Yeah, it was rough. I remember getting so hungry up there. So I was like, you know what? It's 10 o'clock at night. It's going.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, if there's nothing else, Corvus and I, and our co-host Mike and my right hand, this has been The Probable Cause. You can see this on The Probable Cause, www.theprobablecause.com, on Apple, on Spotify. You can see everything that we write. Sometimes extra stories that I just feel like posting on our Facebook page, The Probable Cause. I can't think of anything else. So for now, we here at The Probable Cause say goodbye. This episode is filmed and edited by Frosty Pictures. The Probable Cause is produced by Maumee Media.
Worried when I crossed the Michigan line, a cop from Steuben County waiting on I-69. A headlamp went out while he pulled me over. Charged me with possession after I rolled down the window. Now that's skunk. Indians a trip when it comes to weed. It's like who doesn't smoke or use gummies? Your grandpa, your brother, your rich friend from school? Hell, throw in the whole courthouse and my attorney too. It's time those assholes change these stupid laws. It ain't worth the paper for a probable cause. Sitting on a bar stool in my usual place, this guy next to me said he was looking for some cocaine. Well, I just sold him an 8-ball with a little piece off for me. But my buyer was a cop? Should have known he was a creep. So I'm a dealer, right? You gotta be kidding. It's a rich man's drug. I just take it because I'm injured. 8 years in Westville with a monkey on my back. There's more drugs in here than you can shake a shank at. One dirty drug test, man, this system's flawed. Undercover screwed me in my probable cause. Street crimes never did me no favors. I'm hooked on Fetty. I'm a junkie, not a felon. Told that son of a bitch on the way to lockup. I can't seem to shake it. I need help, not mocking. What do you want from someone who's been through the system? Drugs all through the house before mom and dad went to prison. Throw me in jail and give me a fine? Someday I'll be dead and away from your kind. Now I'm at the courthouse in front of a judge. Can't say my public defender cares for me much. Crimes are committed on both sides of the law. God help me now with this probable cause. C shift never gets old. Anything can happen when you're out on patrol. You think I'm just eating donuts, man? Give me a break. Nothing on this job is a piece of cake. Lights and sirens activated. This knucklehead wants to chase. Baby mama at the scene just spit in my face. Wife's worried that someday I won't be pulling up at all. You'll read about my killer in a probable cause. She went through my phone and she seen my text. I told her forget it. It was just my ex. She took a swing and knocked me flat. Man, I went wild and hit her back. Judge slapped me with a no contact order. Now she's got the kids and she's staying with her mother. So she started it all and I have to take the fall. You can read my whole story in the probable cause. When I was young, caught a case for dealing and did my time. Yeah, I got a record, but I was doing fine. Running my own business on the southeast side. Yeah, I got a gun. I kept it on hand. Told the cop my reason, thought he'd understand. In this neighborhood, you need some protection. Attorney thought I could get just community corrections, but the judge decided to send me to prison. Can't get ahead no matter how hard I try. Read the probable cause, it'll make you cry.
Whispers and rumors that don't get reported. Stories I write that are often distorted. Got my notebook and pen, and I'm ready to listen. Tell me the truth, I'll consider your position. I've seen killers with eyes so cold and dead, and others go to prison because of what someone said, rotting away for the rest of their lives, leaving a hole here on the outside. Things are sad here on Earth, and it's no wonder why, when you consider the sociopaths who remain in charge. It's me who sees the system for all its flaws, and I usually start with the probable cause. My right hand is reading the probable cause.